I'm 74 years old. I say that out loud now because it still surprises me, and because lately the number feels heavier than it used to, like it carries everything I didn't pay attention to when I was younger. Most mornings I wake up before the sun, not because I need to, but because my body doesn't know what else to do with the quiet. The house is still, too still. There was a time when I would have paid good money for this kind of silence. Now it feels like something I misplaced along the way, and it never came back. I used to think understanding came from experience. For years, from doing things right and wrong and stacking lessons like bricks. But what I understand now didn't come from wisdom. It came from running out of time. When you're young, time feels wide, like a field you can walk across in any direction. When you're my age, it narrows. It becomes a hallway, and every step echoes. I spent most of my life believing that what mattered would eventually announce itself, that one day, after enough work, enough responsibility, and enough waiting, clarity would arrive on its own. I thought it would feel big, obvious, like a reward. It didn't. What finally made things clear was how quiet everything became once there was nothing left to chase. I wasn't a bad man. That's important for me to say, because for a long time I confused not bad with good enough. I showed up to work. I paid the bills. I didn't disappear on my family. I stayed. I just wasn't really there. In my 20s, I was busy becoming something. I didn't know what yet, but I knew I didn't want to be nothing. I took the jobs that made sense. I said yes to overtime. I told myself I was building a foundation. In my 30s, I was busy maintaining what I'd built. Promotions. Deadlines. Long drives home with my mind still at the office. I told myself this was the cost of providing. In my 40s, I was tired, but I was proud of being tired. It meant I was needed. It meant people depended on me. I wore that exhaustion like proof that I mattered, and all the while life was happening quietly in the background, waiting for me to notice. My kids grew up in increments I barely registered, voices changing, interests shifting, doors closing more often than they used to. I told myself I'd catch up later. There would be more weekends, more summers. There always seemed to be more time. My wife would sit across from me at dinner, telling me about her day, and I'd nod while thinking about tomorrow. I heard her words, but I wasn't listening. I didn't think that mattered then. I thought presence was optional as long as you were physically there. I didn't understand how lonely you can feel sitting right next to someone who's somewhere else. The damage wasn't dramatic. There were no big fights, no slammed doors, just a slow thinning of connection, like a rope fraying one strand at a time. By the time I noticed, it already felt normal. That's the thing about loss when it comes slowly. You adjust to it. You don't panic. You don't grieve properly. You just live a little smaller each year and call it adulthood. The turning point wasn't some grand tragedy. It was a phone call on a regular afternoon. A doctor's voice using careful words. An illness we'd caught too late to argue with. I remember sitting in the car afterward, hands on the steering wheel, not starting the engine. I wasn't crying, I wasn't shaking, I was calculating how much time, what comes next, what needs to be arranged. Even then, I was managing instead of feeling. She got quieter as the months passed, softer, smaller. I stayed busy. Appointments, insurance, logistics. I was very good at being useful. I wish I had been better at being present. Near the end, she held my hand and said, "You don't have to be strong right now." And I didn't know how to answer that, because I didn't know who I was without being strong. When she was gone, the house didn't just feel empty, it felt exposed, like everything I'd been avoiding was suddenly staring back at me. The nights were the worst. No distractions, no roles to play, just me and the sound of my own breathing. That's when it started to settle in. Not all at once, in pieces. I realized that the moments I'd been postponing were the moments that mattered, the conversations I'd rushed through, the afternoons I'd traded for productivity, the simple, ordinary chance to show up fully. I used to believe success would protect me from regret, that if I did enough, achieved enough, regret wouldn't find me. It found me anyway. It showed up in small ways, in the way my kids talked to me politely, but carefully, in the pauses where familiarity should have been, in realizing I didn't know certain things about their lives, and it felt too late to ask without sounding like a stranger. They love me, I know that, but love isn't the same as closeness. And closeness is built quietly, over time, through attention. Attention is what I gave away the easiest. At 74, I finally understand that what truly matters isn't what you accumulate. It's what you sit with, who you sit with, how willing you are to be fully there without needing it to lead somewhere else. I thought being needed was the same as being loved. It's not. I thought providing was the same as connecting. It's not. I thought there would be a moment when everything slowed down enough for me to finally live. That moment never arrived. I had to make it. And I didn't. Now my days are simple. Coffee, a walk if my knees allow it. The same view out the window I've seen for years, but never really looked at. I notice things now. The way light moves across the floor, the sound of birds I can't name, the weight of memories that arrive uninvited. I also notice the absence, the empty chair, the conversations that exist only in my head now. Understanding didn't bring relief, it brought honesty. If you're listening to this and you're busy, I understand. I really do. I spent decades being busy. I told myself it was necessary. Maybe it was. But don't confuse motion with meaning. Meaning is quiet. It waits. And it doesn't demand much, just your attention while it's still here. There are things I can't fix, years I can't reopen, people I can't sit beside again. No amount of reflection changes that. All I can do now is tell the truth about it. What truly mattered was never the next goal. It was the person across from me while I was thinking about something else. It was the chance to listen without planning my response. To stay a little longer. To say what I felt before it became a memory instead of a moment. I live with gratitude now, but it's mixed with sorrow. They sit together, neither one leaves. I accept that this is the shape of my life. Not tragic, not heroic, just human. If this meant something to you, if it sounded familiar in a way that made you uncomfortable, maybe sit with that feeling for a minute. Don't rush past it. Time doesn't ask permission when it moves on. I know that now. I just wish I had understood it sooner.